From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Afternoon, board reconvene. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Gleason.
Here.
Supervisor Scribner.
Here.
Supervisor Maggard.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez.
Here.
Madam Council, report on actions taken in closed session.
Good afternoon, Chairman Gleason and members of the board. Today, your board heard in closed session items 80, 82, 83, and 84. No reportable action was taken on any of them, and item number 81 had been withdrawn prior to closed session. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you very much. We'll start off with a review of the consent agenda items. All items listed with CA above the item number considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion if no member of the board or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anybody, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. Let's go through the consent agenda. Starting at page 2, under hearings, Planning and Natural Resources Department, items 3 and 4, 5, 8. Under Planning and Natural Resources Department again, 9, 11, 12, 13. Under Public Works Department, 14 and 15, 16, 17. Building and Development is 18. Engineering is 19 and 20. County Admin Office is 21 through 27. General Services Division is 28 through 30. Human Resources Division 31 through 34. And matters for executive approval 35 through 38. Any member of the public wishing to pull any of these items off the consent agenda, now is your opportunity. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board.
Motion on consent.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, public presentations. This is going to be an opportunity for reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on this agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the board. Board members may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. They may ask a question for clarification, make a referral to staff for factual information, or request staff to report back to the board at a later meeting. Also, the board may take action to direct the staff to place a matter of business at a future agenda. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. Please state and spell your name before making your presentation. Any takers?
Good afternoon, Supervisors. My name is Barry Falk. I'm the Executive Director of the American Red Cross of the Kern County chapter. Happy to be with all of you this afternoon. I've gotten the chance to sit with many of you, and some of you have not had the chance to sit with yet, but very happy to be back in Kern County. Many of you know I was in an auto accident here in Kern County about 2 months ago, and happy to be back on the job with Red Cross. I'm here just to give you a brief update on just Red Cross activities in relation to the Erskine fire, and wanted to let you know that your Red Cross is very active, currently having 2 shelters still open, of course, in the Kern River Valley area. As of last night, we had shelter populations of still a little bit over 80. We're doing several hundred meals a day. We are really, I think, doing the very best job that we are able to with the tons of volunteers that we have to make sure that folks are well fed, that they have comfort, that they have a place to stay, that we are working with them on health services, and so we're able to provide debit cards to help people with prescriptions, et cetera. And so all of that is what we're really focused on. And I think the messaging that we're trying to promote right now, as I'm sure some of you have seen on Facebook or other venues, is just that what we don't have the capacity to do right now is to accept many in-kind items. And so we're working as hard as we can with community partners. I personally was able to set up a relationship with the Elks Lodge in Woodford Heights the other day, and sat and met with Jadine Schroeder, who's kind of one of their leaders there, to really get that stood up and organized. They are still accepting donations and are now working alongside the Salvation Army as well as Web Recycling in the area for overflow storage areas. And then we're also working with Goodwill for those here in Bakersfield or other surrounding communities who want to donate but perhaps can't make it up there. We are excited to also share with you all this today that Goodwill, hopefully in the next 2 days, will be working with us to bring some trucks up to that area to open up a pop-up shop also for some of the items that's been collected that can then be, of course, redistributed to the communities who are affected. So I'll leave it at that. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any, but I just want you all to know that your Red Cross is very active at work, ensuring that community residents in Mr. Gleason's district are very well served, and we're very happy, again, to be supporting the county.
Thank you, Mr. Falk. Let me start it off by making a comment that I agree with everything you said. I was very impressed with the attitude, the quality, and the of all the services that the American Red Cross brought to bear quickly in helping those communities get back on their feet, and they're still.
Yes.
I don't know how they do it. They must have a lot of experience in doing this stuff, because every time I turn
About
around...
100 years of experience.
Well, they were phenomenal, and each one of them was pleasant, and they were dealing with people who sometimes weren't pleasant, but they still managed to provide satisfaction, and their ability to make things happen was very impressive.
Thank you.
There was an issue about a gentleman up there, only one issue I couldn't resolve, and that is a gentleman had a need for opioids. He couldn't get them, and the American Red Cross had no way to help him get that. Do you have any thought about that?
So I think that the issue there, as I've understood it, and I don't know the exact situation, but I think that an actual doctor needed to prescribe that and not a nurse. And I know that I was at the shelter on Saturday in Kernville, and there was doctors there that were able to provide some of the narcotics, and I think it was an issue with it being a narcotic. Is that
it the
correct?
gentleman in the back, one of the back rooms, the heavy-set gentleman in the back room, Robert something or other? I suppose you shouldn't say his name.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you even I even know the person or the specific,
Okay.
but I know that over the last 2 days there's been doctors on site also who would be
Okay.
able to prescribe higher doses of medications that our RNs wouldn't.
Okay, I don't know if my members of my peers have anything to add or questions or thoughts, but I was utterly impressed and completely impressed with your organization. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Glad you're doing okay.
Or if you want to.
So my name is Barbara Nguyen. I'm with AT&T External Affairs. I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to meet with you yet. I'm
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Barbara Nguyen.
Nguyen?
W-I-N-N.
Thank you.
With AT&T External Affairs. I relocated to the area and have picked up Kern County. I'm also appointed to the Governor's Office of Emergency Services for Emergency Disaster and Communications. So this is my hometown. I deal with disasters all over the state. So when I was called by Mark Ghilarducci to get something up there as quick as I could, we were a victim of the fire as well. One of our cell sites did burn up, and it was a hop for 2 other sites. So we had 3 sites down. I had people on the mountainside within a few hours. Couldn't get behind the lines. My close relationship with local fire, police, sheriff, and OES got us an escort back there. It took us a while to get it back up. We should be about 90% functioning. We brought in National Disaster Recovery equipment immediately from Reno to get that up and running. The real reason I'm here is because I was meeting with the Red Cross right before, and our leadership here decided to donate $25,000 to the Red Cross. And also working with the local community and Assembly member Shannon Grove, we identified another local organization, Faith Community up there, that's doing amazing work for those who can't make it to the shelters. So we're also donating, and we're working on the paperwork for that, for an additional $5,000 for that community.
So you come here one time and you get a round of applause.
I think I have something on the agenda later, so I'll leave for that. I was going to be here for that, but I've decided this was more important. But I do plan on setting up meetings with all of you to just touch base and to let you know I am here, and I'm here in your district and for you. Your public safety officials are absolutely amazing. They protected my crews out in the field, and I had crews on the mountainside until 4 a.m. Oftentimes, and it was a great collaboration, I have to say, with the other utilities, Verizon, Frontier, and the energy company. So
You have a gentleman working for you by the name of Diego?
yes.
He's kudos for on
And so
Diego.
we did also, including all of my crews out in the field, and I was at Incident Command, we did set up our community responders, and we had our teams bring up 8 to 10 people. I loaded my car as full as I can. We had about 200 cases of water we brought to the Red Cross shelter, and our crews have, and our community responders, which is Diego and his team, have been there since Saturday, and they plan to stay through Wednesday, and they brought charging stations for computers, laptops, smartphones, everything. It just shows the real need that everybody needs this wireless connectivity to bring their emergency services with them.
Ms. Nguyen, you said in your beginning remarks that the AT&T is up 90% of its capability?
Yes.
When is it going to achieve 100%, did you say?
We're still working on optimizing the network. We're actually bringing additional resources to the services we had. The network up there had issues once we got it back up and running, strictly because we've never seen that many people use our network in that location. So we actually went and grabbed additional facilities from Bakersfield and brought it to the mountain to try to provide more service than you've ever had there before, to accommodate for the public safety and those. So we're hoping it may be up already. I get updates and I'm on calls around the clock. I'm heading back up there now. I came down for this, I'm heading back up. And so it should be 100%, but we still do have our natural disaster equipment up there. In a different location, we've moved it around a few times to make sure where there are any holes. We're working very closely with CAL FIRE, the Forest Service, BLM, OES, all of that. So just want to give you a quick update. And we just got approval for the $25,000, so it was a perfect time to announce it to you guys. So.
Thank you, Ms. Wynn. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you. Anyone else for public presentations? Closed public presentations, board member announcements. I have one, and this is from, this is another Erskine Fire deal from Cal Water. I got a report just recently that the second round of tests, and this is an email coming from a Mr. Justin Scarb from Cal Water. And he says, Supervisor Gleason, I have some good news to report. The second round of tests for all 4 of our systems under a boil water advisory, South Lake, Onyx, Mountain Mesa, Squirrel Mountain, Squirrel Valley, came back negative, which means they're clean. A short while ago, Division of Drinking Water, DDW I think they are, gave us the green light to lift all our boil water advisories. Crews are back on the way out to the field to complete house-to-house notification. We will be issuing a press release and advertising the good news on social media. We are, however, making it clear that these changes only apply to Cal Water customers, and that other residents need to check with their water providers to see what, if any, water quality precautions remain in place. So the Cal Water boil lift has been lifted, but that's the only one. All the other, water purveyors have not been lifted for boil water. Notice. Yeah, and we'll put this in official records. So thank you very much. Nothing else? Let me just go to Chief. Do you have any thoughts? Anything changes you need to talk about? This is Chief Marshall. I'm putting him on the spot. He's used to it.
Chairman Gleason, yes, I'm used to it right now. We've completing our disaster assessment this afternoon. Continuing to work with the repopulation plans. Things are going extremely well in that part of it. Again, it's communication to make sure everybody knows, but we continue to work real hard with that. Having AT&T backup is going to help a lot, but it looks like a disaster assessment will be done this afternoon, and that will be a big part of getting people back in and getting information to the state for help.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions from my peers? Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on. Board member announcements is complete. Let's go to item number 5, which is a request. What? What did you say? Oh, yeah, 6, number 6. Number 6, request from Cruise Through Express Car Wash by Swanson Engineering, Inc. to modify an approved precise development plan by amending original conditions of approval to allow a drive-through car wash on 1.43 acres located at 5363 Olive Drive on the southeast corner of Olive Drive and Victor Street in the Bakersfield area. Ms. Oviatt.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Gleason, members of the board. I'm here to my right with my division chief for operations, Scott Denny. This is a modification of a precise development plan. We have brought it before your board since in 2013. It was the subject of public hearings before your board. At that time, this project was redesignated as highway commercial, and the precise development plan, if we could show this on the overhead, originally had a pharmacy, fast food, and an office complex. So this is at the corner of Olive Drive and Victor Street. If I'm going to ask Ms. Kraus, is there something I'm supposed to? Thank you. At this time, the fast food restaurant is in operation and the office complex. However, the pharmacy, for various reasons, decided not to move forward. And the applicant who's before you today for Cruise Through Express Car Wash has bought that piece and is before you to change the precise development plan to allow for this car wash. You are familiar, these are the type of self-service express car washes. There are 5 cruise-through car washes in the Bakersfield area. There's a maximum of 5 regular employees on site. The hours of operation are 7 in the morning to 9 at night, 7 days a week. However, during the winter months, they do close at 7 in the evening. They're going to use the shared driveway with McDonald's off of Olive Drive, and there is an alternative access that has been provided. Car wash has been orientated, and the blowers for the vacuums have all been carefully designed to minimize any impact on the neighbors. The employees are also going to monitor patron car music and other sorts of litter or anything else that could occur from this self-serve express car wash. Mature trees are planned for the west side of the project to help minimize light and sound, and the block wall has already been constructed by the previous property owner to aid in this effort. This is a modification of existing conditions. Therefore, we have reviewed all the conditions, and the recommendation does include some very specific conditions that we're changing. We provided you with an addendum because in reviewing this project, we realized that we had left all the parking for the pharmacy retail store, and that is actually where we are building, if you approve this, the car wash. Therefore, in your addendum, there is a chart that shows that the office space needed 73. They've provided 97 parking spaces. The fast food restaurant needed 52. They've provided 72. The car wash really only needs 6 parking spaces because of the employees. So we have amended that condition, and when your board is ready to consider a recommendation, we would ask that you use the recommendation in the addendum, as there is a condition that needs to be amended. We encourage the applicant to work with the neighbors, and we believe that they have successfully incorporated into this project many design elements that the neighbors had asked for. We did receive 1 letter in opposition from someone farther, if I can, excuse me. We did receive 1 letter in a concerned area resident who just noted that there are already many car washes within a quarter mile. We did go look at this and noted that these are the types of car washes that are associated with like a Chevron, or they do not provide the full service of this type of self-serve car wash. In addition, once again, we have coordinated with the Public Works Department in regards to traffic. We believe that since this is a comparable use and even a lesser use than the pharmacy that was there, we believe there are no issues in regards to traffic for this precise development plan. With that, we are prepared with a recommendation in the addendum, and we are available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Soviat. Let's open it up to the public for comment. Any in the public wishing to make comment on this issue? Now's your opportunity. Come on down. Please state your name and spell it, and then speak your piece.
Hi, my name is Kim Dettrey, D-E-T-T-R-E-Y. My house is on Nomi Street, which backs up to Victor. And I'm also co-chairman of the Neighborhood Watch Group. And being that I have a pretty good handle on the neighborhood, and we are all in favor of this. It'll be a big improvement. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Dettrey. Anyone else? I don't see anybody. Yes, sir.
My name is Mike Smart, S-M-A-R-T. I live on the corner of Nomi and Victor, right next to Kim. And Raymond and his staff have met with our neighborhood committee. They've come to one of our meetings, and I personally have met with Raymond at his office and gone over the plans, everything that the planning department has, and Raymond has been, the lot had a lot of tumbleweeds on it. We called the other day, Raymond had a crew out there the next morning cleaning the lot up. This neighborhood, which is a 5-block county radius, as Scott Denny knows, we've always been opposed to everything. Right now, we love this. We would be more than happy to have this go in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Smart. Anyone else? Close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Mr. Maggart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is in the 3rd District. I'm happy to move staff's recommendation. I want to applaud and congratulate the applicant for working so diligently with the neighborhood. I wouldn't say the neighborhood has opposed everything, but the neighborhood has vociferously advocated for what it thought was best at every opportunity up to this point. And I'm grateful and happy and pleased that you think this is best. So no reason to prolong this. Congratulations to everybody involved. I'd move staff's recommendation and the parking as per the addendum as you suggested.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved, all ayes.
Congratulations, everyone.
Item number 7, request from AT&T Mobility by Veloterra Services, Inc., original applicant AT&T Mobility by Veloterra Services, Inc., an appeal to the decision of the Planning Commission approving A, conditional use permit number 44, map numbers 102-19, and B, zone modification case number 15, map number 102-19, on approximately 2.5 acres located at 4136 Jewetta Avenue, Bakersfield. Ms. Oviatt.
Thank you, Chairman Gleason, members of the board. This is an appeal of a decision by the Planning Commission on April 28, 2016. The Planning Commission did approve this conditional use permit 44, map 102-119, and zone modification 15, map 102-19. However, the conditions required that the applicant place the AT&T tower in the southwest corner of what we call the area of feasibility. And the applicant is appealing that. So, as a reminder, this project is a total of 2.5 acres. It is zoned residential. It is estate 10 acres RS. It's designated suburban residential, so it's a residential use. It is the western portion of the site, as you can see, is developed with a house, and there are similarly developed single-family residences to the south and catty corner, but the surrounding area is all zoned residential. Access to the site is provided by Hageman Road and additional access from Jewetta. The original proposal by the applicant, and if Mr. Denny could point to it, the original proposal by the applicant to the Planning Commission included a zone modification or zone variance to place the antenna next to the adjacent property owner's house at the very furthest corner of this property. The crosshatched area is what we call the area of feasibility. In other words, that area is what is written into the zoning ordinance for setbacks. So if you want to put a tower, for your cell tower, in that area crosshatched, you would not need any additional reductions in setbacks. The Planning Commission and the Planning Department recommended no on the zone variance. The neighbor was opposed to it. They're not opposed to a cell tower, but they were opposed to putting the cell tower next to their house when there's 2.5 acres, including a large area of feasibility where they could place the tower. The applicant then said, meaning AT&T, said fine, they would put it in the area of feasibility. The Planning Commission continued it. They then came back and they proposed it in the corner next to the road. The Planning Commission, in reviewing this, took into account the fact that while the area of feasibility, remember that is the crosshatched area, is allowed by the setbacks, There's no limitation in a discretionary conditional use permit for a specific location for the cell tower, as long as it is within the limits of what Congress has placed on your ability to regulate cell towers. So this project, the zone modification to make it 85 feet, the extra 5 feet, is so it can be stealth, and so it would look like an authentic tree. And so we do support that you allow the 85 feet so that we could stealth it and have it look like a tree. However, placing the tree next to the road or placing the tree next to the homeowner means that the actual burden of that view shed would be on the residential houses next to this property. The findings require consistency with the purpose of the applicable district, and the property is located in the estate uses. Estate uses are limited to those typical and compatible with quiet residential neighborhoods. Obviously, this is 2.5 acres. Many of these properties are very large, so we can think of it as a rural residential. Further uses should be compatible with the style and character of the neighborhood. There's an additional chapter in the ordinance, 19.91 wireless communications facilities, which notes that the siting of wireless communication facilities should minimize the adverse aesthetic impacts on residential areas and harmonize tower siting with the natural built environment. As a residential area, the choice of the applicant's proposed location in the northeast corner, we believe is closer to the adjacent residential land, although it's vacant, and the traveling public. The tower would have to be serviced once a month. It is really an industrial type project. And we believe that because it is conditional use, that location should be one of the conditions that makes it compatible so that we can make the findings. We are sympathetic to the property owner's feelings that this is where they live, who is proposing this AT&T tower. This is their backyard. However, the property owner has self-selected that a cell tower be placed on his property under contract with AT&T. Placing the tower at the southwest corner of the project, which is where the Planning Commission approved it, ensures that the impacts on the view and the monthly service calls will be completely within the boundaries of the property and impact only the property owner and not the adjacent residential areas. We have confirmed that the tower location is in the backyard of the property owner's applicant. It's not going to impede his access or the use of his house. We believe that the Planning Commission location is an appropriate location to ensure consistency with the intent of the E-zone for quiet rural residential use on the property owner and where industrial use is allowed, but only with appropriate conditions. So we recommend denial of the appeal, approval of the project with conditions requiring stealthing, location in the southwest corner to ensure consistency with the E-zone. That completes our presentation, and we're available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Oviatt. Let's open up the public for comment. Does anyone in the public wish to comment on this situation? Come on, if you do, come on down.
I'm Alan Fackler. I'm the owner of a piece of property.
Excuse me, sir, your name is what?
Alan Fackler.
Thank you, sir.
I'm the owner of the piece of property. The reason we wanted it, we didn't want to have it in the middle of going east and west, So I decided that would be better to be on give more access to the property. I mean, for building or whatever we wanted to use it for in the future. And we did have an offer on this piece of property, but the person that offered wouldn't want to have it there in this southwest corner. So that would be out as far as, that's not something we would desire. So I just would like to see if we would reconsider and put it back in the area that I've selected, in the area that we first the second choice that we selected. And I don't know what else to say. We do have as I said, someone that's willing to buy the property with the cell tower on it, but they want to build a church. And so the use of the property on the front end, it's going to be changed someday. The best use is the corner, and that's where we would like to get it away from the corner so it would be more like for parking lot use. I mean, the cell tower would be around the parking lot. So that's my reasoning for it. The original plan commission said, because of they wanted to have it, where the trees, where it would blend in, and I don't believe that's what we would be desirable for future use. I don't hope I've made myself clear on this. I don't know.
I understood.
Okay.
Did anyone have problems understanding what Mr. Fackler said? Sir, you've been clear. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, my name is John Stubbe. It's Jonstuebbe. I would like to urge the board to grant this appeal. And let me just explain very briefly why that's the case. I was present at the Planning Commission meeting, and unfortunately, the way the Planning Commission heard this, one thing they did is after they closed the public hearing, at that point, there was this amendment to move it to a completely different place than the public had been notified it was going to be proposed. And the public hearing was never reopened. So neither Mr. Fackler nor anybody else in the community ever got an opportunity to explain to them the dramatic effect that this change would have on the value of Mr. Fackler's property. So this specific location has a very detrimental effect on the value of the property and its future usability. The Planning Commission assumed that this house would sit on that property for all the foreseeable future. This tower lease has a 10-year term with 3 5-year extensions and extensions beyond that. So we're looking at a term of up to 25 or more years, during which time that tower could sit in that same location. Effectively, what this does is it destroys the viability of any other use of that property for that period of time. The property, as you heard, I think was about 2.5 net acres. It is zoned R1. It's not going to be a commercial corner. It's too small for that, and I don't think this board would ever approve one there. But so there are really only 2 other uses other than Mr. Fackler and his family living there for the next 25 years. The first one would be to connect it to the property just to the south. That's approximately 8.7 acres and is zoned for residential. And in fact, you had at one time submitted to the county a development plan for that for homes. If you connected this property to that, you might be able to use it also for residential, but this is too small to develop on its own for residential. It's only 2.5 acres, and you couldn't even put a street through it and put any lots there. But if you put that tower right smack dab in the middle of this property, it'll be very difficult, if not impossible, to construct family homes around that. The only other use of the property, which he referred to, and it's the reason I'm here, is I'm on the relocation committee of a small church that's considering moving to the northwest. And we've been in discussions with Mr. Fackler for a period of time over the possibility of developing this as a church property. But if you put the tower in the middle of that, it'll either sit where the building would have to go, or it'll sit right in the middle of a parking lot. In effect, what you've done is you've removed from Mr. Fackler his ability to ever do anything with this property for at least 25 years, because nobody can make use of it. We certainly can't as the church. The developer of the property to the south can't do anything with it, and it's not big enough to do anything else with. So what I would urge the board to do is to grant the appeal only insofar that it puts the tower back in the northeast corner. That would facilitate either of those other uses. If we're not able to do something with Mr. Fackler, then perhaps the property owner to the south can. But that would be what I'd ask the board to do. Now, I'm available for any questions, but other than that, that's what I have to give for you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll have a question for Mr. Stube in a few minutes.
If you'd stay, you can sit right in that front row, Mr. Stube.
All right.
Just sit down and we'll call you in a minute. Yes, ma'am.
Tall. Good afternoon. I'm Linda Smith. I'm the property owner to the west. I have several statements. I object to where they currently propose the tower to be. Initially, they wanted it to be the original proposed application, and I objected because, one, I'm on a water well, I'm not on local city water. I would propose that it go to behind Mr. Faulkner's house for several reasons. One, it blends in with the topography of it. They're going to put the branches. This whole property out there is all dirt. There is nothing there green. The property to the south of him, that 10 acres, is also dirt. The property to the west of him, that whole acre there, is also dirt. So if you stand on the tower or stand anywhere behind that tower, you're going to see dirt for 10 acres to your south and 1 acre to your east. Also, at the last board meeting, I know this has no bearing on it, but it was brought to him to possibly move it anywhere from the proposed current location, and he said no, he wasn't going to move it. He wasn't flexible. Also, the gentleman here who wants to do the church, when we discussed it previously at the Planning Commission, it was discussed that this whole property could be turned to commercial. And that was the discussion. If it was ever bought, it could be rezoned to commercial. Yes, there were previous plans to be done as a residence. And if you pull up those plans were drawn up as a Smith plan. Those were done by my brother and my father, who was previously deceased. They had drawn up plans to do the property that was east of this was in Mallory and enclosed all those 10 acres south. And Mr. Faulkner didn't want it part of this plan. They were close to, I think, 14 acres. And since then, my father has passed away, so that whole plan has been dropped off. My brother's now in Montana. So those are the only plans that have been done. The person who bought this property that is south of Mr. Faulkner's has those 10 acres, and he did intend to purchase that little area that has the offset that was bought where the original applicant. He did verbally talk to Mr. Faulkner originally, and he has intentions of buying that strip for an exit, a potential exit to property, to use an exit to go to Hageman, because when he when he builds on that property, he'll need an exit to go off to Hageman and off to Jewetta. Should he should he build a mass complex on that property, he'll need 2 exits. And he did mention that, and so Mr. Faulkner agreed to move the antenna off at that point in time. So those are my objections. I just think that it should go closer to the corner. It blends in topography-wise. Also, they have to run water to it. So when they put the water to, when they build the building around the antenna, they're going to have to run water. It's just an incurred cost for the tower. And to run it further down, I just don't think it makes sense. Plus, setting it out there in the middle of nowhere, vandals, there's not a high list of vandalism, but there's not a lot of brick walls, but still, you're just increasing the cost. Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, could you confirm her name, please?
Mrs. Smith.
Linda Smith.
Thank you.
S-M-I-T-H.
Mrs. Smith, we may have some more questions for you also, so if you grab a seat in the front, be comfortable.
Okay.
We'll get back
Let
to
me
you.
grab my phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. Oh, excuse me. My name's Aaron Roten, R-H-O-T-E-N. My company owns the parcel to the south of this particular property. In that particular area, if we look at the overall surrounding issues, there's fairly dense residential population to the north, west, and south. And then there's some more rural type population to the east. It's very minor. Really, the open land around there is what you primarily see on the map here. I look at Mr. Faulkner's parcel more in terms of the future instead of the current. However, though I do understand the planning department's concern about the current. So I have no objections in the future to whatever the current policies and regulations of the planning department are. As far as setbacks, I think most of the time the regulations are protect the community, protect their implementation is good enough. I don't know that I would support personally anything more restrictive than the current regulations that the county has, so I would support a location anywhere in that crosshatch area. I was originally opposed to a request to encroach upon the current offsets because the plan was to put it really close to my property, basically. And but I would be in favor of anything that the supervisors approved. However, I would support more personally that no more restrictions be necessary on the applicant other than what the current existing setbacks are that the county requires. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roden. Any other comments? Close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Mr. Maggart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple questions I just want to make sure I understand. Mr. Roten, could I ask you a question first? Yes. Could you come back up to the microphone, please? Thank you for coming down today.
You bet.
This picture that is on the screen shows pretty much a denuded field around the property. I'm looking at Google Earth and on these tricky little phones that we have. And directly to the south is a furrowed field. It looks like it's under some kind of ag production. And it runs all the way from Hageman, not from Hageman, from Jowetta to the east up. It looks like it goes almost to Mallory Street. So where in there is your property? Do you?
The property would be the largest parcel of property in the area. So it would be west, in the west half of what you're looking there.
And due south of Mr. Fackler's residence?
Yes, all the way up to the residential area connecting to the south.
To the south, okay. So are you in some kind of negotiations with this church to sell your property to become part of their church?
No, I'm not.
So we'll talk to Mr. Stubbe in a second. Is Mr. Stubbe talking about some other location besides your property?
I think he's only talking about the Faulkner parcel, which is a gross 3.5 acres to the north of the parcel that my company owns, and it's a net 2.5 acres.
Very good. I'll clarify that with him. So your property is due south of Mr. Fackler's residence, and it is not your intention to develop it at this point?
I don't have the money to do it right now, but if I have the money, it is my intention, yes.
Very good. Well, good luck to you, sir. I hope you get to do that someday.
Well,
thank you. Thank you. Ms. Smith, could you come back up for a moment?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I was confused.
Googling me?
Pardon me?
Googling me?
Oh, no, ma'am. I have not Googled you. I would not do that, ma'am. That sounds kind of creepy. I would not do that, ma'am.
There are stalking laws.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I'm sure there are. Now you're going to see me turn red in front of the crowd
Sorry.
here. So I was confused as to where your property is. I thought you said to the west. You meant east, right?
Yeah,
You're closer to Mallory?
That way. I am on Mallory.
Mallory, okay. So, and someone, maybe Ms. Oviatt, we can go on the flyer back and forth a bit. Ms. Oviatt, I have not Googled you either, Ms. Oviatt.
It's okay. Sorry.
Ms. Oviatt, didn't someone testify at the Planning Commission that they didn't want the tower in the southeast corner of outside of the hatched area, the very southeast corner, because it would be too close to somebody's residence over there?
Mine.
Was that Ms. Smith that made that
Yes,
testimony?
sir.
Okay, thank you. And this, the photograph that's on the screen is not exactly the same as the photograph that's on Google Earth. Could you point to where Mallory Street is on?
Where the word applicant on the far right of the picture? It would be,
Mr. Denny, can you point to that so everybody can see it?
they're in there, yeah.
Yeah, what I'm trying to get to is I'm having difficulty seeing on the photograph that you had up here a moment ago where Ms. Smith's residence
It
is.
would be,
Because it looks in the Google Earth that it's much closer to Hageman than what it appears to be on.
it would be the conglomerate right in there. I would be that block of blob, yeah.
Okay. So one of my concerns, Ms. Smith, so your concern, I think, is that you don't want it too close to your property, and you think it blends in better the neighborhood if it's closer to the trees that are in Mr. Fackler's backyard.
Correct. I mean, that's all the brown you see is dirt.
Right. Okay, very good. Thank you, ma'am. I may have another question for you in a minute.
That's fine.
Thank you. So is there something we're not seeing on the other side, outside of the view of this photograph? Is that at the corner of Mallory and Hageman? What is that structure? Is that her house?
Where? Point. That is a house, yes.
Is that your
my
house, ma'am?
Yes. And that is a shop, and that is a mobile home.
Okay, so there's those three structures. You live in the one that's to the northernmost.
Correct.
The one
Correct.
closest to Hageman?
That is my home.
Okay. So if this were to be placed in the northeast corner of that hatched area, Mr. Denny, could you point to that? That is the closest location it could be to Ms. Smith's residence. Is that not correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Smith. I appreciate that.
But that's not the green box.
Green box? You're talking to a colorblind guy. I don't know what, it doesn't matter. It's okay. It's all right. Thank you. Mr. Stubbe, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service to our community. I have a great deal of respect for you.
Thank you.
I hope I'm not about to disappoint you in the process, but
Whatever.
Nonetheless, you know I respect you. So I misunderstood. I thought that Mr. Fackler wanted to open up his property and connect it to that large parcel to the south. And Mr. Roten a moment ago indicated he thought that your church may be interested in building only within the property that Mr. Fackler currently owns. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
What I was pointing out is there's really only two uses for his property other than its present use. One would be to join it with the 10 acres to the south and residentially develop the entire thing. The other use would be to leave it as a separate parcel with an interest that we might have as a church in developing that into a church facility.
So
but only his property.
Okay, so Mr. Stubbe, I understand that now, thank you. So Mr. Stubbe, are you suggesting that you want to also acquire what is currently the place of his residence to be developed into your church, or would his residence stay there?
No, we would take the entire parcel. And the church, the house and the garage, and there's also a kind of an industrial building right on the south property line would be gone.
So you would, okay, so, and are you currently in negotiations with them to do that?
We have been in discussions with him for some period of time. We've made an offer on the property, which is currently in limbo with all of this process.
With all of this, okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Stubbe. May I have another question in a moment?
Let me be clear. We do not have an agreement to purchase or sell.
Yes, sir.
But we've been in active discussions.
Okay, very good. I appreciate that, sir. Ms. Oviatt, how large is the footprint of a cell phone tower?
Supervisor Maggart, thank you. There are some misrepresentations that have been made, probably just misspeaks.
Yeah, nobody's not being truthful here. They're just misunderstandings.
Yeah, just a misspeak. So I would like to correct the record. First, Mr. Denny is going to point around this piece. This is a 20 by 40 site. It is the size of 2 cars. It will be fenced. They will put drought-tolerant shrubs around it. So if your board decided that you wanted to move it someplace else, the water could be handled. I also wanted to clarify that what the Planning Commission did is relevant but not definitive to your board. This is a de novo hearing. Therefore, whatever representations or lack of public comment was made at the Planning Commission Does not matter now. I defer to council, but you have the jurisdiction now you are rehearing this. It was duly public noticed again. People had an opportunity to provide you with information, and you can make the decision you wish to make. I also wanted to clarify, this property is not designated R1. R1 is 6,000 square foot lot. This property is actually designated E10 RS, and since it is only 2.5 to 3 acres, it is not subdividable. It has no general plan designation for commercial or industrial. That would have to go through a public hearing, including a general plan amendment. The property to the south is designated E10 RS as well. It is not R1, and therefore it also would need a subdivision map. The subdivision map that was submitted many years ago was never processed and never approved. In this case, finally, a church does require a conditional use permit. I have no applications for such a permit on this property, and that is not before your board today.
Thank you. So if it were to be a church location and it requires a conditional use permit, is that because the location of a church on that property is inconsistent with the zoning that's on that property?
It's because in the E zone, we just need to have more conditions for a church. So it is
Okay.
listed as conditional use.
This is troublesome to me because I certainly would like to be amenable to Mr. Fackler, but on the flip side of this, Mr. Fackler is going to enjoy the benefits of locating a cell tower and the revenue that will inure to him because he's locating that tower there. That is an enhancement of his property. On the flip side, if you were Ms. Smith on the other side, it is not an enhancement, it's a detriment to her property. And I don't think it's unreasonable for us to have a scenario where Mr. Fackler enjoys his benefit that still minimizes the detriment to Ms. Fackler, and that happens by locating this tower up against the back of the fence of Mr. Fackler. So my motion will be to uphold the Planning Commission's location of it, and I believe that would indicate then that we would be denying the appeal. And I respect all of you. I'm sorry that some of you are frustrated by the result, but when I look at the property rights of everybody that's involved in the process, I think that's the most fair result. So that would be my motion, to deny the appeal and uphold the recommendation from the Planning Commission.
Supervisor Maggard, if I may, for the record, read the recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Adopt resolution and recommended findings denying the appeal. Adopt resolution recommending findings approving conditional use permit 44, map 102-19, subject to original conditions. Adopt resolution and recommended findings approve zone modification 15, map 102-19, subject to the original conditions.
That's the motion.
Supervisor Couch.
Thank you. I want to ask kind of a general question in case this type of case comes forward again. Mr. Denny, can you put up the slide or the picture that shows the green crosshatched area? The one that says area of feasibility meeting all setback requirements? There you go. Tell me what that exactly means. Does that mean, and what to what extent the Planning Commission, the Board of Supervisors, or what limitations are on them? It sounds like, let me just tell you what it sounds like to me and tell me if I'm wrong. It sounds like when you say area of feasibility meeting all setback requirements, you're kind of saying, here's an area, you can put it, go figure out where you want to put it. But apparently that's not the case, because the Planning Commission was much more specific about where to put it within that very area. So can you talk about that? Address
Certainly. Supervisor Couch, this is, we don't normally have to create this area of feasibility. However, as a reminder, the applicant originally came forward with a zone variance and decided they didn't want to comply with the setbacks. So inside our recommendation, we wanted to provide the Planning Commission and your board with, this is the area that complies with the setbacks. Now, inside that area, based on the fact that there is discretion within a conditional use permit, where do you want to locate the tower? Since the commission had indicated we're not going to support any variances to the setback. So at that point, we provided to the applicant and the commission this, inside this green area. That's the area where you don't have to give them a zone variance for any setback changes or zone modifications. Applicant, go and discuss where you want to put the tower. The commission then indicated they thought the tower should go towards the house, and the applicant came back with it at the other end. So
Let me jump in and ask a question there. Was the application, the original applicant proposed location way down here in the southeast corner?
it was with the zone variance.
And then, but what was applied for that the planning commission actually heard? Was it this location called the revised applicant proposed location?
No, Supervisor Couch through the chair, no, please, Mr. Denny, please point to that location. It was the original applicant proposed location with a.
Was that?
Was
Okay.
that. Then at that hearing, the planning department had recommended no, we don't think they should have that zone variance that close to the house. The planning commission then continued this item to allow the applicant to come forward with another location that was in the area of feasibility.
Which was the revised
That's correct.
at a subsequent hearing of the
Yes.
planning commission? I see.
That's correct.
Well, Supervisor Maggers, you're right. It'd be nice if we could see a way to allowing both uses, but you make a good point. Thank you.
Mr. Maggard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I forgot to clarify one more thing about cell phone towers. Is it the policy of the county of Kern that all cell phone towers erected in the county must be, I don't know what the proper term is, made to look not like a cell phone tower? It's not stealth, but what is the term what's the proper term? It is stealth?
Supervisor Maggard through the chair, yes, that's correct. We have brought forward some exceptions for cell towers in very, very rural areas, and we have a picture of the stealthing, which they have agreed to on this site.
So it isn't just within the urban growth boundary of the city of Bakersfield. Throughout the county, that policy applies, and by exception, there might be an instance where it wouldn't be made to be stealth. How do you say that correctly? Stealthy is not the word.
Supervisor Maggard, like the airplane, stealth.
So the tower is made to be stealth?
Meaning that it's not supposed to look like a cell tower, it's supposed to be camouflaged to look like something else.
I know what it means, but it doesn't sound like proper grammar to me. Mr. Scrivener is the grammar king here. Oh, yeah, okay.
Stealth.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to have stealth up. There's a butchering of the English language. Our towers will have stealth standards applied to them.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
We have a motion.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Brings us to item number 10. Request for direction on proposed emission reduction agreement with San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District for implementation of oil and gas activity permitting. Fiscal impact is $250,000 to $27 million. Applicant's mitigation fee payment, not budgeted, discretionary. Ms. Oviatt.
Thank you. This matter is a request for direction on the proposed emission reduction agreement with the Air District for implementation of the required mitigation to reduce air impacts from oil and gas activities now regulated by your board. When you approved on November 9th, 2015, the Kern County zoning ordinance and adopted certified the environmental impact report, the final EIR certified for that project included mandatory mitigation measures to reduce environmental impacts. Mitigation measure 4.3-8 requires that criteria emissions of ROG, NOx, and PM10 that are not included in the normal Title V stationary source permitting be mitigating through fully offsetting these project emissions. This is consistent with your board's direction on many other types of projects, such as residential subdivisions and commercial and industrial projects. The EIR comprehensively calculated and defined all the activities associated with well drilling and then created a included in those emissions things such as employee trips, equipment use, road impacts, construction, operations, stimulation activities, and steam generators. We truly appreciate the Air District's help over the last 3 years in reviewing this information that we have hired consultants to provide, and helped us come to an analysis that accurately portrays the impacts of drilling new wells and the ongoing operations of them. We have been implementing this since December 8th, 2016. So as of that date, all new wells and other covered activities were required to have a permit from the county before they received their permit from the Division of Oil and Gas and Geothermal Resources at the state level. We have been, up until this point, collecting the air mitigation fees, and we are now asking your board that we enter into a contract with the San Joaquin Air District such that we can more effectively implement an air reduction plan. This ERA program is consistent with the Air District's VERA program, which you may all be familiar with, and their indirect source review. However, it's different in many ways. First, instead of individual developers entering into a agreement with the district, your board will have the agreement with the San Joaquin District. As you know, the oil industry is comprised of hundreds of companies, and that would be impractical for them each to go to the Air District and create an agreement. Therefore, your board would enter into this agreement. The county would collect this fee, which we'll talk about in a moment, how that fee is calculated. And then through the provisions of this agreement, the Air District and the county would proceed to find projects, fund projects, and expend the money on projects that will reduce air impacts in the San Joaquin Valley. On page 2 are some key components of the proposed emission reduction agreement. The first is, of course, how do we calculate the amount? The current cost per ton will be calculated based on the annual cost effectiveness ton in the Air District's annual report, which they provide based on indirect source review and the VERA. So the current cost per ton is $7,231 per ton. On top of that fee, we would collect a 4% administration fee, which would be passed on to the Air District. The district would then use that to confirm the emission reductions are actually being accomplished, review projects, monitor and report on emission reductions. At this time, no additional fees are being asked for the Planning and Natural Resources Department work, but the staff that we already have established would be integral in making sure this program moves forward. As you know, cost effectiveness is a key consideration, and evaluations of cost effectiveness are routine parts of the district's regulatory activities. Generally, the district does select the most cost-effective emission reduction projects, but we are bringing forward to your board some key elements that we have negotiated with the Air District to ensure that there is consideration given to Kern County projects. So first, if Kern County projects are the most cost-effective, then all the funding would go to Kern County projects. But even if Kern County projects are not the most cost-effective, we are proposing, in recognition of the localized impacts for our disadvantaged communities located near the sources of oil and gas, then there be a $250 per ton differential, meaning that a project in Stockton might be more cost-effective, but for 20% of the funds available, they would go to Kern County if that Kern County project was within $250 a ton of that other cost-effective project. So think of it as a 20% set aside for the $250 a ton. If no Kern County projects are within that amount, then none of the projects would go to Kern County. One of the analysis that we've done over the past few years in developing this program is to evaluate where the money has been going in regards to the indirect source review funds and other funds. And we came to the conclusion that perhaps Kern County's businesses and cities are not as effective and organized as we should be in actually applying for these funds. So one of the responsibilities that the Planning Department and Planning and Natural Resources Department will take on as a division has been starting to work with businesses, work with the industries, to let them know that they need to get organized. We can give them sample projects so that we can actually generate more projects down here in Kern County that could qualify for these grants. Another portion of this is that applicants may develop and propose their own emission reduction projects. So a small group of small producers, for example, who only have 2 or 3 wells, could get together and propose their own reduction project. Perhaps they want to change out the fleets that they use for their trucks. Perhaps they want to go to Bark and they want to buy Bark a new van that's cleaner. They could propose those projects. The Air District will evaluate them for emissions reductions. They have to equal the amount of tonnage that they need to reduce, but it could be less expensive for them to do those kinds of projects. Then we also added that fees could be used as matching funds that are partly funded by a federal or state agency. However, we do need to determine with the district the appropriateness of that in consultation with the federal or state grantor. So those are the main provisions of this emission reduction agreement. We have invited the Air District here, and the Executive Director, who you know very well, Syed Sadreddin, is here and would like to address your board. I am prepared for questions of your board as to the cost of these mitigation fees, but I think it would be appropriate to take public comment and look to see what other information I can provide.
Thank you, Ms. Soviat. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As always, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here before your board. But before I get talk to you about this particular item, I wanted to take this opportunity to express my gratitude on behalf of the district, on behalf of the staff, for your board's assignment of Supervisor Couch to our board. We have really enjoyed his leadership. What's that? We have really enjoyed his leadership. You know, he holds our feet to the fire to exercise good government and make sure we do our job, the very difficult job that we have in a very cost-effective and efficient manner. And that's really been the tradition of all the great leaders that your county has sent to our district. Supervisor Maggard being on our board, as a council member from City of Bakersfield, Supervisor Watson. So a great tradition of leadership from your.
You're talking about David Couch.
Yes, yes. So thank you very much. I also wanted to compliment your staff for their innovation and creativity in bringing this proposal before you. As you know, in San Joaquin Valley, we have very difficult challenges when it comes to our air quality. It's not because we haven't done enough or haven't done a lot to reduce air pollution, but unfortunately, because of some of the God-given conditions that we face with respect to our geography, topography, we have very difficult challenges when it comes to air pollution being retained in the valley. We are also house the 2 major freeways in San Joaquin, throughout the valley, the I-5 and 99, that have a lot of air pollution traveling with those pass-through trucks, pollution coming from Bay Area. So we have a lot of difficult challenges. We've reduced air pollution by over 80%, but unfortunately the federal government continuously moves the goalpost in terms of what they consider to be acceptable standard, to the point that the most recent standards that have been published by the federal government approach the background pollution concentration, meaning that we have very low tolerance for allowing growth, let alone all the emissions that are already in San Joaquin Valley. Of course, our district does not accept that one-size-fits-all solution that the federal government wants to prescribe, and we've tried to always come up with solutions that allow for economic growth while minimizing the pollution impact and mitigating the impact that comes from air pollution. And this particular proposal that is before you is an example of that. It's an example that will allow oil production to move forward, to replace existing oil wells, and hopefully someday, even if economy, hopefully, and the oil prices, as I'm sure you're painfully aware of, if they are more suitable, even enhanced growth in this area can be accommodated without the CEQA process basically put in a de facto ban on growth in San Joaquin Valley in this particular area with oil and gas. There are a number of people that say, given our challenges, we should just accept the no growth dilemma here in San Joaquin Valley, and our board, your board, I'm sure, does not subscribe to that. And this particular proposal today will allow businesses adequate flexibility to reduce air pollution effectively, but make decisions that make best economic sense for their facility in terms of how to mitigate the emissions. They can do on-site measures to reduce air pollution. If that's not cost-effective, they can go through this process and provide funding that will then be used to mitigate the air pollution in the area. As Ms. Oviatt mentioned, there is a desire for these funds to be spent in the valley, in the Bakersfield area and Kern County area. And I'd be surprised if these funds, all of them, will not actually be spent in Kern County area. The only obstacle to that, the only barrier to that would be if leaders, businesses, municipalities in Kern County do not step forward with projects to actually take advantage of these funds. So we really need to take seriously what Ms. Oviatt said, that we need to get the education out there, get the members of the public as well as the community leaders to really take part in this and come up with projects that we can support. Every dollar that is collected here will be reinvested back into the community. And it, hopefully first priority being in Kern County. And if we're not able to find projects here for some reason, which I'd be very disappointed and very surprised if we're not able to, then the money will be spent in places that reduce air pollution in a way that will help air quality in your area. Because as you know, given the predominant wind direction, any reduction in air pollution north of this area, you will see the benefits of that. And in terms of what those projects might be, we're talking about mass transit, all kinds of projects to actually take people out of single occupancy vehicles into more efficient transit systems, school buses for children in the schools, farm tractors, farm engines, trucks, and a whole host of other equipment that we can replace with cleaner technology. And all of those dollars not only will reduce air pollution in this area, but will also hopefully contribute to the economic well-being of this area. One last point that I wanted to also note here is that every dollar that is collected through this process will be leveraged by additional funding. So for every dollar that this region contributes, you get another dollar in terms of benefits to the area. And because in our district, we do not fund projects, these cleaner projects, for 100%. They require matching dollars to come in from the project proponents, and that will reduce air pollution further and provide greater economic benefit to this area. So with that, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I support the staff recommendation and look forward, pending your approval, to work with your staff to work out all the administrative details to make sure this program is successful in reducing air pollution while allowing growth in your area.
Outstanding. Thank you, sir. We may have questions for you, so don't go far. Ms. Oviatt? Done?
I certainly can provide you with some more statistics if you'd like to take more public testimony, but I would like to first clarify that we actually have $1,038,658 already. So this is in 6 months in a down economy.
Thank you. Okay, the public session is open. Is anybody who'd like to comment on this issue? Please come forward. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, fellow board members.
Morning, Susan.
Director Oviatt, as well as county staff, APCO Syed Sadrujan, and county or APCD staff. Did I miss anybody? My name is Suzanne Noble. I'm the Vice President of Production Regions for the Western States Petroleum Association, also affectionately known as WISPA. I want to thank you for the opportunity to address your board today on the proposed emission reduction agreement We call it the ERA, or the ERA, obviously between the county and the San Joaquin Valley APCD. You probably all already know that WISPA is a nonprofit trade association. We represent the whole spectrum: exploration, production, refining, transportation, marketing of petroleum, energy supplies, natural gas, not only throughout California, but an additional 4 western states. WISPA, along with SIPA and IOPA, the 2 other associations, were the project applicants for the zoning ordinance amendments accompanying the Kern County EIR, which you adopted obviously last year in November. And together, the 3 associations represent over 30 companies, and by far the majority of oil production here in Kern County. The ERA is a very, very essential next step in implementing the mitigation for the air emissions as required, not only in the zoning ordinance, but also under the EIR. And as it's explained in the staff report, the ERA will substantially provide revenues to be used for projects to improve the impact on air quality. And as Director Oviatt had mentioned, those revenues are already being generated by our companies who are already paying substantial air mitigation fees to the county. These fees, in addition to the considerable costs for implementing the many other mitigation measures under our current zoning ordinance within the Kern County EIR. But our members are willing to undertake these many new and costly requirements, again, to obtain and continue to have economic certainty with a streamlined permitting process that's been established by this program. We continue to be committed to the success of this effort and its economic as well as environmental benefits, not only to our industry, but also to your county. We do greatly, I say it, emphasize it, greatly appreciate the continued hard and diligent work on implementing this ordinance and the EIR by your county staff. It has been tremendous. We want to continue to see them work through the key terms of the proposed ERA with the Air District staff, and we do ask you respectfully that you direct the staff to continue working with the Air District and to bring the ERA as described in the staff report back to your board for approval next month in July on the 19th. Again, we would like to thank the supervisors as well as the county staff for your ongoing interest in and, of course, continuing support and commitment to this effort. I would like to thank all of you for your time today.
Thank you, Ms. Noble. Public hearing is open. Anybody want to talk? Seeing no one further come down, we'll close the public hearing and bring it to the board for conversation. Supervisor Couch.
Thank you. I know that it's taken a long time to get here, and it's taken a lot of work on behalf of your department, Ms. Oviatt, and also on behalf of the district. And Syed, you were very kind to me earlier in your comments, so I'll return the favor. I want you to know that you and your staff, I think, are thought of in the business community, at least among people who have dealt with you, as people who get it. You understand that you are an agency that can be viewed in a particular way. The county can be viewed in that same way. Any government agency can. But I think when they work with you enough, that people begin to understand that you are accepting of new ideas and willing to work with people. And this is evidence of that. And I want to thank you and your staff for all those types of efforts, but this one in particular, and you as well, Ms. Oviatt. So I don't think we should change a thing among the recommendations you've made. I don't think we should tinker with it, because I'm sure you're good with it, and I'm sure you're good with it, or we wouldn't be talking about it today, and I don't want to mess that up. So is there anything you need from us other than encouragement to bring back something with the elements that you described?
Supervisor Couch, through the chair, no, I did want to let you know that my intention would be, if you give us direction today, based on our ongoing conversations with the district, that we would like to bring a contract back on July 19th so that we can bring it to the Air Board in their August meeting.
Okay. And I don't want it to, it goes without saying, but the $1 million was collected came from an oil company somewhere, which is people. And so we want to thank you, Suzanne, and your organization, and all the people that you represent. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Supervisor Perez.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge our attorney, Jennifer Hernandez, who's with us from Northern California. Really appreciate the constant, very reasonable, and highly competent advice and counsel we've received from you, your firm, and your assistance and friendship through this process. So I really appreciate you being here. Should any specifics arise that require your expertise. So thank you for your continued counsel. I see various members here from various aspects of the industry. We know this has been a lengthy, complicated, and costly effort on your part. So once again, express my gratitude to you for all the people and companies that you represent, that helping us here in Kern do our part and do it in the most sophisticated, impressive way than is being done in the entire country, really. So we are leading the charge. I know there are lots of folks in the Capitol that have a close eye on this process. And I appreciate, Said, that you are doing it in a manner that does not alienate people, but brings folks to the table in a way that is intelligent and consistent with our very own human nature. I think it really is the best of us. Demonstrates how things must be done in the future. So hats off. Thank you for all the members that are represented today. And I look forward to moving this process along. Director Ovia, once again, miraculous work. So if a motion has been made, do we have a motion? Okay.
It's not, and I'm not sure we need one. Madam Counsel, do we need a motion on this to bring it back? You don't need a motion. We do not?
You don't need a motion to bring it back, but I think she's requesting that it be approved.
Or direction? What do you need, Director?
Chairman Gleason, that's correct. The recommendation is that you, board, provide direction to me and let me bring it back. So if the provisions on page 2 are acceptable to you as a framework for bringing back the actual legal agreement, then that would be your motion. I've given you language in the recommendation.
I don't think there is a motion. I think there is. Question, do you have enough sufficient guidance to move back?
I do.
Good. I think we're done.
Okay. So I would just second then the remarks of Supervisor Couch that we proceed with the proposal. Well, excuse me, Chairman.
So we don't need a motion. That is correct. I don't want to make this. We do not need a motion.
That is correct. You do not need a motion.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, Mrs. Scrivener.
I'd punch in, but all I was going to do is say that I concur with the remarks of Supervisor Couch, not only about the recommendations, but also, Syed, your staff, you've been great, not only through this process, but you really do strike an appropriate balance between the health of our community and the health of our business community. So just thanks to you and your staff. Appreciate it.
Okay, that brings us to a close. Let's adjourn till Monday, July 18th, 2016 at 10 a.m. for closed session.
So moved.